Hello, and welcome to CLEA'S World. I am Clea Necchiarico, and today I would like to share with you more of the information I received from the 25th dimension. And this was during my last hypnosis session, QHHT hypnosis. And as I read, when I refer to Karlyn, I'm referring to my hypnotist. And when I say me, I'm referring to myself under hypnosis. So let's jump in. Karlyn, how many humans out of the 2 billion on planet Earth are on the team of the light versus the team of the dark? And how many like to straddle the line? Me. So the team of the light is about 1/3, and the team of the dark is actually about 20%. Everybody else is somewhere in the middle. So it's almost like a continuum. And everybody else is like, they don't want to know, so that they can justify to themselves when they do something that technically, from a moral standpoint, they really shouldn't be doing. But knowingly, on one side or the other, you're going to have 20% on the dark and 30% on the light. And again, it doesn't mean that there's 20% of the human population that are extremely dark, doing evil things. But they're very clear on the fact that they don't even have to pretend. They know that they would prefer, they're like, it's me, it's just me, and nobody else matters. They are tools for me to be used. That's what I mean by being on the team of the dark. Everybody else in the middle likes to lie to themselves. I mean, like, oh no, I'm good. And then there are 30% who actually, they don't care. They made a choice. They're like, we don't want to deal with that. We just want to do the right thing. And of course, we all falter, right? Nobody's a saint. Nobody's living, unfortunately. We're all mired in this reality. And again, money very much has brought us to the point where everybody's dealing with the system. But more or less, if you really want to put it in black and white terms, that's what we're looking at, since you're asking for percentages. Karlyn, you told us that the reptilians are the dark team, but there are humans who are doing awful things as well. Is this because they have been taught by the dark team to do these things? Me. Yes. Karlyn, do humans have this extreme darkness innately inside of them, just like the reptilians do? Me. No, but humans are willing to learn. They're willing to be entertained. So whatever idea comes up, they might latch onto it if they think it's fun. Karlyn, so did we as a collective have the propensity to become evil? Me. We can, yes, but we don't have this as a propensity. This would have not happened had we not had a dark team. We can because, like we said, you can embrace anything. And you can go from the light to the dark and vice versa. However, you absolutely have free will. However, had we not had the game be so dark, humans would not be so dark either. It was just the reptilians. So the people in the middle, had this game not been so dark, they wouldn't have been so dark. They would have not been dipping in and out so much. The reason I asked these questions and I wanted to know, so really I think of this as the nature of evil, is because so many assume that the human race is evil and we have all this evil inside of us. Now, while it is absolutely true that we have both light and dark inside of us, in fact, the biggest issue we've had, the reason why we're taking down this game, is because we have refused to acknowledge the fact that we do have darkness inside of us, especially the ones of us who think of ourselves as spiritual or we're all love and light. We tend to think that we're saints, okay? And we're lying to ourselves because none of us is a saint. The whole point is that we are everything. So what we choose to do is just a choice. It's just that. There is no judgment. And the 25th always says there's no judgment. You can be on the team of the dark, and that's perfectly okay. Now, of course, they also say that they've been doing things that have completely unbalanced the game, and And they've been doing things that we really never wanted to see on this planet. So there's definitely been mistakes, okay? They're not justifying everything, and they're not saying it's all great. In fact, this is not fun anymore. That's why we're taking it down. But the whole point is that a lot of people out there, and I know people, I've discussed this with people in my life, they think that, well, humans are just bad. I mean, if you don't have laws, if you don't have rules, people are just going to go crazy. And I've always found this concept very strange, because when I ask him, I say, so how many people do you know there are, excuse me, there are criminals or that have these very dark intentions? And now it's not just about the thought. It's not just about having a thought. It's actually carrying it out, or you would carry it out if there wasn't a risk of, I don't know, the death penalty. I don't know what they're thinking of doing. And when you think about it, everybody that I know is a normal person, which doesn't mean they're perfect. I'm not perfect, so I certainly don't expect anybody else to be. We all make mistakes. Sometimes we do things that we wish we had done differently, and then we recalibrate. So it's funny, because when we see these dark things happening out there, we think they're just part of how humanity is. And that's why I asked about the 25th about this. And basically they're saying, no, it's not true. This is something, these are just ideas that were introduced to us, and we decided we're going to try them out or not. Now, some of these, unfortunately, have entrapped us in a vicious cycle. And this is why this has gone kind of south, this whole experiment. But it's not because we are innately evil. And this is important, because we are so scared of being so dark inside that that's why we reject all notions of darkness inside of us. And the more we do this, and the more we judge this darkness, the more we dive deeper into this lack of balance on this planet, which again, at this point, we can't save it anymore. We're moving on. All of us are moving on to a better reality, whatever that looks like for each individual soul. But bottom line is, this is what's happened. So we might want to start stopping this behavior, because just as much as we're capable of, we think that we are capable, there are people who are capable of these dark acts, it's also possible for us to integrate them, so we don't have to keep manifesting them out there in the outside reality, so that they become so huge in our view, in our collective imagination. Karlyn, so that we as a collective have the propensity to become evil. I am so sorry. I actually already read this paragraph. So, Karlyn, were the commercial animal feeding operations me? Yes, they are. Karlyn, they were introduced to create loosh. And if you're not familiar, loosh is basically this negative energy that happens every time we are doing evil or something dark that supposedly the reptilians feed on or feed from. I'm actually going to ask more about this the next time around, because I do want to understand how this works. But basically, I'm asking this question because I have this idea that these extremely evil commercial animal feeding lots or feeding operations, which are basically one of the most evil things I can think of on the face of the earth. They're a scourge. They're really an embarrassment to humanity. It's really just awful all around. And I have the idea, or I've also read somewhere that they were put on ley lines so that all the loosh, this negative energy could be seeped, all the suffering from these innocent animals could be seeped into the ley lines to disrupt the earth cycle, to disrupt Gaia, and to really be absorbed by the reptilians, which of course gives them strength. So Karlyn is asking, they were introduced to create loosh. Me, absolutely. That's an easy way. People on this planet like to believe we're all separate from everything. Animals are not only separate from us, which is a big joke, but they're inferior to us. It's the judgment we're talking about, which is actually what creates the denseness. And of course, this is all a joke. Torturing an animal is just as wrong as torturing a person. We have unfortunately learned this the hard way. A lot of the darkness we've seen has been caused by that. So absolutely, this was a great idea actually that the dark came up with, when you think about it from that perspective. This should have never happened either. This is when we were so deep on the dark side that we allowed this to happen. This is really not acceptable for many. From an entertainment perspective, this is not entertaining in any way. This is one of the things that's very much put us on the road to collision with having to take this down. Karlyn, so with that said, with everything you just explained, a question comes to mind that there is that 30% in the middle that they don't want to know. Me, 50% in the middle, 20% dark, 30% light, and 50% in the middle. Karlyn, we have children who don't even know where their food comes from, meaning they don't know that these animals are being kept and tortured and just treated really, I'll use the word, inhumanely. Are their bodies, are they affected by that energy when they are eating that flesh? Me. If you are introduced, first of all, you come into a family that will expose you to certain things. We choose, remember? We choose everything. So for example, Clea was carnivorous until she was 20 years old. And she's thought about this. But here's what she's missing, because she feels guilty, but she didn't know. Here's what she's missing. You choose to be exposed so that you try something, because the whole point here was that you can try an idea, but you can also let it go. So you don't have to try anything, or you can try for a short amount of time, or you can adopt this idea forever. So she tried this so she could make up her mind on what she wanted to do. She's always felt the iniquity of this extremely cruel situation. So for a lot of children, it's the same way. But a lot of children, of course, if you notice, they will continue eating meat. Doesn't matter whether you know where it comes from or not, because we know everything. We know what's behind the scenes. So a lot of people have chosen to be part of this. Now, you have to understand, again, the dark being ahead has created a frequency level, has created a denseness that doesn't allow people to see through a lot of stuff. It allows you the ability to not look beyond things. And not only, you look around and you see a lot of people doing the same thing you're doing. You don't question. This is really powerful. This is really successful in terms of the game rules, because we are so distant. We're so separated from our connection to source, our connection to the 25th, our connection to ourselves, that we actually are able to believe this is okay. It's okay to do this level of cruelty and still think that we are innocent. So when you think about it, it's a very successful game rule. However, as I said, this is one of the rules that has really unbalanced this reality. So yes, it will affect you. It does affect us, absolutely. But it affects us because this is our choice. We decided to be affected by this. You don't have to be. You can live. This is not like money. You can live in this environment and not contribute to the system, to this particular system. Karlyn, was vivisection an animal experimentation? Me, awful. Karlyn, for research purposes introduced by the dark? Me, there's no research purpose. That's pure evil. Yeah, the dark introduced it to corrupt people. People wanted to be corrupt though. Again, nobody's gonna do that if they don't want to participate in that system. Karlyn, and then in essence, it just further enslaves them into the system? Me, that's correct. Once you start losing faith in your ability to do good, then of course you're entrapped. This is why I'm talking about a continuum for the 50%. They get drawn, right? Depending on where they're focusing. Somebody, a scientist who's being told, oh, what a great man you are, because you're a scientist, you're so smart. And your job is to kill thousands of animals and torture them in some awful ways. This is what you do on a daily basis. At some point, something filters through and says, maybe I'm not so good. And that's what's happening. A lot of these people are rejecting and resenting what they've been doing. That's what it means when we hear that the dark is crumbling, that the dark is, because it's all crumbling really, this entire system. people are questioning everything, even people who do not seem to be questioning. A lot of people are fighting the questioning, which means they're already questioning. They just don't want to pay attention. And as I always say, if you're not questioning, then you have no reason to get upset when somebody's telling you something that's different from what you believe, right? So a lot of the animosity that you get, or the resistance you get when you tell somebody something, is because they know that if they allow even one little crack in the dam, it would all come crashing down, because they already know that it's not, they're only holding it together because they want to believe in it. It's not real. Karlyn, yes, that is correct. There are people who normally on a day-to-day basis will not be concerned what is going on around them, and they are truly starting to question. You told us that the people on New Earth will have shiny, translucent bodies. Will the other two groups of people also look different? Me, no, they'll look the same. They'll be healthy, they'll be younger, they'll be young, except in the 3D chambers. They might want to retain some of that. They might just call it prolonged youth or slow down aging, or because they still don't want to know. You can just tell them all of a sudden they can live forever. But when they go hang out with the aliens, they'll know. They'll think that it's the technology that's making them forever young. They still need to believe it's something outside of them. On New Earth, of course, we know. This was my cat crashing the video because it's going to be the center of attention. Karlyn, so they will live longer. Me, they will live longer. In the 3D chambers, they will age, even though slowly. And when they hang out with the aliens, they will look young. They will live longer, but they will look the same. They might they might gain their hair back if they lost their hair. They might be all slim and whatever. But they will look the same. We on New Earth do not have to look the same. Clea already knows what she's going to look like. A little bit like this, but she's going to change some things. And they were laughing, because they're always laughing at me, which is fine, I don't mind. So Karlyn was laughing too. She said, that is fantastic. Do we know any of the other bodies we inhabit as light workers? For example, Clea, does she know any of her other incarnations at this time, or even Karlyn, any of her other incarnations? And she is referring, or in my question, I was referring to the fact that the 12,000 have the ability to embody up to 12 bodies each in order to achieve the individual's goals as a light worker. So I wanted to know if I had run into any of my other incarnations. I was curious. Me. So the answer I'm getting is that we don't know them, but we've run into them. Yes. You have run into your own teammates. I have also run into, but this was abroad, actually, not here. I've run into some of my own incarnations, which is so weird. But again, we wouldn't know them. They wouldn't be our friends. It's just, it's just somebody that we run into or we see from afar. Who knows? I'm thinking something like that. Karlyn, that's fascinating. Me. I've run into some of yours too, and I was referring to Karlyn's incarnations. It's so funny, the things that we know in the background that we are not aware of in 3D. It's so funny. Karlyn, yeah, I don't doubt it. I had someone just tell me that someone she knows laughs exactly like I do. I'm like, okay, that's really weird. That's probably me. I'm going to end this here. However, I do want to say, when we talked earlier in the video about the commercial animal feeding operations, this is not to judge anybody who's eating meat. The 25th made it very clear there is so much denseness here that is very hard for many of us, even when we do want to do the right thing, to be completely neutral or be completely able to see all facets of reality. And so we have been taught to eat meat, actually. And this, I will go into these questions a little more. I want to understand why this was introduced. I do believe it was a concept introduced by the dark. That's just my hunch. I have not asked yet, so I will. I personally, so I had been a vegetarian since I was 20 years old, so it's been decades. And I have never, not once to this day, asked anybody to not eat meat or even refuse to go to a steakhouse. When my friends take me to a steakhouse, they'll have their succulent steaks and I will have mashed potatoes and be perfectly happy with my life. So I've never been a person who likes to impose my ideas on other people. What they were referring to and what I was asking about was specifically these torturous ways of raising these animals, these unnatural, not just inhumane, unnatural ways where it doesn't even make sense to eat this meat, okay, beyond even the cruelty and absurdness of it. However, this is done, right? And we are made to believe that this is how meat can be cheaper. I mean, things that really don't make sense. So there is no judgment here. I personally would probably still be eating meat if it had been raised the way that I was used to seeing it raised when I was little, because my grandparents used to have a farm and they had animals. I remember seeing, I was 4 years old. I remember seeing my grandmother cut the throat of rabbits. And it was not traumatic. I didn't like to see it. I was looking away, but I mean, it wasn't traumatic because these bunnies had been so happy. She treated them so nicely. They were free, they were happy, and death came in a moment. We really are referring here to the fact that everything is done industrialized, and you cannot industrialize life. And any time you connect money, which is absolutely corrupt, a corrupt system, to life, that's when you have these absurdities come out of it, which is like these commercial operations for animals, which I cannot wait for this to be the past, that we're going to have to integrate this for sure. And we've all been part of it. I feed meat to my daughter. So again, no judgment whatsoever in this video about anybody eating meat. This was just, I wanted to understand the nature of this problem. So I hope that that has shed some light for you as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you have liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and do comment below, because I would love to read if the stuff resonates with you. Thanks, and I'll see you again soon.